All right, good morning, traders. It's July 24th, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I am the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. BYOBtrading.com is the day trading service for the hit and run candlesticks family. Again, thank you out there for being here. I want to thank everybody out there in podcast land, digital land, cyber land. Good morning, Bobby. Podcast, cyber, digital land, yeah, all of them. Thank you so much for following my content, liking my content, subscribing to my content. Thank you for sharing my content, all of that. Appreciate that. This is my trading journey. I'm sharing it with you. I hope you are able to benefit from it in some way. All right. I welcome comments. Again, thank you. Thank you for all the kind words over the years, especially you, Bob. Appreciate that. Love that. All right, let's drill down. Let's go take a look at the morning monologue. See what happened yesterday. It was a pretty good day yesterday. All right, let's talk about it. Okay, my SPY pivot this morning, 631.75 above it. I'm above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Yeah, that last 1 minute candle was pretty big, huh? That was right at the last minute. All of the Fab Five still in daily uptrends. FNGU made, a lower low and a lower high, closing under a bearish cross, but over the rising 17. QQQ made an inside day, closing over the bullish trap over the rising 17. SPY closed with a new all-time high, a 2-hour uptrend, and a 10-minute uptrend. So we'll be looking for some continuation to that 10-minute uptrend this morning. All right, no topping wick candles. All right, we don't want a candle with more wick than body and tail. We don't want a red candle because that's the opposite of an uptrend, and we don't want any dojis or spinning tops because that tells us bulls and bears agree on price. All right, so we're looking for a decent green candle for continuation of the 10-minute uptrend. IWM and Diamond Dow made a new return rally high. Okay, so they're up in new rally highs, closing over bullish traps over their 17 EMAs. Silver made a new 13-year high. Gold made a lower high and a lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the 17. USOs in a daily uptrend. UNG made a lower low and a lower high, closing under a bearish trap under the 17. Okay, both made lower lows and lower highs, closing under bearish traps under their 17 EMA. So USO's in an uptrend, UNG's in a downtrend. Both made lower lows and lower highs, closing under bearish traps under their 17 EMAs. US dollar index still in a downtrend. Hey. We love that, okay? SPY Max Pain 631 with a put to call ratio of about, it's 1.38, 1.4 puts to each call that expires today at 4:15. Remember, the index options expire at 4:15, while the security options will expire at 4. Okay, we got some stars. We got some new stars. Actually, we got a lot of stars over here. Okay, a lot of little launch pads getting constructed. All right, and a downside launch pad getting constructed to a new grave lower to the downside. Let's take a look at MBLY, and you'll see it's still in the same spot. Let me pull that back up. Come on. All right, and let's take a look at MBLY, and then we'll dig into the market, and then we'll look at the bulls as well. All right, so let's take a look at. Let's pick up a clean chart. Let's go to the daily program, MBLY. Okay, so you can see right here we've got a bear flag. Okay, it's down and over to the right. All right, so got a couple of wicks there. All right, it may not go lower. All right, and this may be a higher low, and they may come back up and form a new high. We'll see. Okay, so here's MBLY with a bear flag right here, looking for a move lower. All right, that's the one that's flagged on the southern side. Again, remember this is counter trend, so it probably may not work out. Okay, on the bullish side, EYE. All right, EYE setting up a nice launch pad right across the top there. You can see, looking for a breakout right over that line right there. That is 25.42. Okay, nice launch pad being constructed. I like that one for a launch to the upside. Okay, Joby, Joby. Got a 5 candle launch pad being constructed here. Again, right up over, well, green erases red right there, about 1790. Okay, 1790. That's the launch pad for that. Nice return back to the high up there. That's Joby, building out a launch pad right there. BBAI, building out a launch pad right here. Let's see what we got. Again, up over, looking for green erases red. You can see they came from this low and they're rallying back up to the highs up here. So up over 829 looks good for a launch higher. BBAI. UU. All right. Got a 5 candle launch, just like Joby. Again, over the red candle there, and it's coming much closer than Joby did. So that's up over 9, whatever that number is, 951. Okay, up over 951 on UUU for probably another move up higher. What else do we got here? TNGX. Okay, TNGX. You call them launch pad. Here's a 5 candle box getting constructed, or launch pad. And let's start with this. And I'd want to see green erase red, so up over 701 right there on TNGX. What's the next one down here? Got a lot of them. GTX got a 5 candle launch pad getting constructed. I'd want to see green erase red, so that's over 1187. All right, that's GTX. And the last one, COGT. Got 4 candles up here, all of them red. This one may not work out, but nice move up there. We'll see what happens. Again, I'd want to see green erase red over 1279 up there, over 1279. And that's all of them. That's all the launch pads getting constructed right now. So share those with you. Let's take this out of the way here. Let's go back to SPY. Those are all in bullish uptrends. You want to look at TME? Yeah, we can look at TME. TME, yeah, it's another one. Looks like they already launched right here. See this? Right there. See where the green erased the red right there? So I'm looking for something like that to happen today on some of the ones we got. So they launched up to there, and now they're starting to consolidate. So I would want to see, again, green erase red. There's your red candle. So up over 2206. Okay, want to see up over 2206, Bobby. There's a good one. Nice uptrend there. TME, like that. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, good morning, Chip. All right, let's take a look at, let's go look at SPY. All right, you can see SPY, okay, new all-time high yesterday, okay. Obviously bullish, just dropped the mic. It just doesn't get any better than that, okay. Got a daily uptrend. Obviously, you can see all of the green dots leading up to a new all-time high. Same with the weekly chart, new all-time high. And on the monthly chart, again, new all-time high. Okay, on the 2-hour chart, okay, you can see the 3 EMA, which is this yellow line, is up on top of the white 8 EMA right there. Okay, so got a 2-hour uptrend coming into the close. And of course, on the 10-minute chart, 10-minute uptrend coming into the close right there. Okay, so price action yesterday. Let's look at this. Take a look at how we made money yesterday. Okay, you can see price action. Bullish, gap up, never got filled by the bears. Okay, bullish gap up, never got filled by the bears. Okay, so that's a bullish environment when the bears can't fill the gap before noon. Okay, then you can see price is consolidating over prior consolidation. That is a bullish environment right there. And we're up on top of VWAP. You get this, this was the rubber band candle. We had a huge rubber band candle right there. Of course, it went up. And then, of course, you got the 10-minute uptrend. We traded the 10-minute uptrend again. Green erases red. Okay, so where's the red? The red starts from right there down to the tail right there. There's your red. And this is green erases red entry right here as you come right across the top of the box right there. Green erases red. Okay, so you got to pull back. You could trade this 10-minute uptrend all the way into the close. And that started, I think that was at 12 noon right there. Let's see what time that was. That was, yep, 12 noon right there. It's like somebody blew the whistle and they all went to work or they all went to lunch. Either way, that's when the party started, was at 12 noon right there. This was the spike candle. This was the rubber band candle. And you can see we broke a red erases green entry right there. Excuse me, a green erases red right there. So you had a pullback. You could buy the pullback and trade it up to the upside right there. SPY on the 10-minute chart, okay? Make a lot of money with the 10-minute uptrend, all right? It's my favorite. It's always been my favorite, okay? You may see me on the 5. You may see me on the 3, okay? It's because I'm looking for the turn, all right? When you see me on the 5 or you see me on the 3, I'm still following the 10, all right? Because I like that 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. My favorite, all right, is the 10-minute uptrend over VWAP that happens to be inside of a 2-hour uptrend, that's inside of a daily uptrend, that's inside of a weekly uptrend, that's inside of a monthly uptrend, okay? I've got all the forces of nature pushing me forward, all right? I got all the kinetic energy moving me forward, okay? I've got all of those trends there to save me, all right, are pushing forward on this, okay? Weekly, daily, monthly, 2-hour, okay? So that's my favorite, 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. And I like it especially when price peels away from VWAP. See how price is separating itself from VWAP. VWAP is volume weighted average price, okay? It's pretty close to what all the shares sold for, the average price that shares sold for. So that would represent the price that the market should be paying is the average price, okay? But they're willing to pay more, all right, and drag it up to new highs, all right? So that tells me they believe it's worth much more than that. Okay, so there's SPY on the 5-minute chart, but this is our 10-minute uptrend, of course, which is my favorite right there. Okay, if you look right here on, let's take a look at this one. Let's go to 4-hour, all right? Okay, this is, right here, this is Wall Street buying the dip, okay? Notice the dip gets bought up, okay? This is what I consider one risk unit. All right, Wall Street likes to get 2 rewards for 1 risk. Okay, so here's 1 risk unit. All right, here's 1 reward unit, takes us up to 655. Okay, and then 2 reward units, because they like it just like us, 2 rewards for 1 risk, takes us clear up to about 737, right up there. 737 falling out of the sky. Okay, 737 right up there. Okay, I'll be tickled if we get to 655. All right, and I said that here, said it here, here, here. I mean, you name it. This is when I was talking about it. I even said it here. All right, And look how close we are. We are within $20 of striking that one reward unit to one risk unit position right up there at 655. We'll see. Things are looking good right now. Okay, so that goes up there. Okay, so a lot of times the market moves in synchronicity. What you see on the southern side often happens on the northern side. That would mean we could possibly expect a parabolic, hyperbolic pop to the upside that won't last more than, you can see here, 2, 3, 4 days. Not long at all when it gets all the way up there. Okay, I don't expect it to hang out there for more than 2, 3, 4 days. All right, and then come back down. All right, and then figure out what they want to do from there. Okay, so that's SPY. This is the risk unit. That is one reward unit, two reward units right there. Okay, so there's SPY. Just wanted to show you. I'm expecting, I still have a target of 655. I'll be tickled if we get to 655. I'm just saying we're well on our way. Who would have thought we'd be up here at 635 as we approached 613, the possible double top high, all right, earlier while we were heading through the cutting through the consolidation right here of all of the prior consolidation. Okay, so there's SPY, all right, and I shared with you the game plan. Okay, let's take a look at what I want to see this morning. Okay, see this? I'm going to mark off the high and the low. All right, so the high and the low of the post-market, pre-market base right here. Okay, the high and the low, and I would expect a breakout of the high. All right, if they break out of the low, I would expect them to come down to the pivot, and I would look on my 3-minute or 5-minute chart for a reversal to manifest at the pivot and then head back up. Okay, that's if they break the low. I would expect them to come down to here and then look for a J hook back up. Now, whether I would expect a bounce. Now, whether the bounce brings them all the way back up to the highs or to a lower low remains to be seen. Okay. If they break out of the top, again, let's put on the pivots. All right, I'm going to crank up the pivots so you can see pivot targets up overhead. Okay, first pivot target up overhead is, get the crosshairs out. Okay, you can see up here 636.45. So if they break the highs, this will be the first target, 636. Just call it 636.50. Second target, okay, 638.40. And fourth target, okay, 641.79. All right, those are the upside targets. All right, if they break out, all right, of the upper range up here. That would be my first target, all the way up there. Okay, so that's, just want to prepare you for that. Okay, so I'm going to mark off the first 15 minutes. I'm also going to mark off the pre-market high and the pre-market low, or the post-market high. Anyways, all of the overnight and pre-market action, I'm going to mark off the high and the low and look for a breakout of either one. Okay, again, if we get below this area right here, I would expect us to come down to the pivot, and I would look for a bounce. All right, whether that bounce brings us to a double top, a higher high, or maybe a lower high. We'll see what happens. That's if they break out of the bottom. If they break out of the top, I have targets. I already laid it out for you. Again, 636.46, 636.50 up there. All right, so what do I like? Let's look at the SPY game plan for this morning, okay? And let's drag this over just a little bit right there, okay? Again, I'm looking for a continuation of the 10-minute uptrend. All right, I want a 10-minute green candle. I don't want any topping wicks. Okay, I don't want anything that's got more wick than body and tail. Okay, and I don't want a little doji or a little spinning top. Okay, I don't want either one of those, because that means bulls and bears agree on price. All right, I don't want a big wicky candle with more wick than body and tail. That shows me bearish control. All right, and I don't want I don't want a red candle because red candle is shows me bearish control, right? So we have a green erases red entry over 633.55. Okay, again, we're going to need a decent green candle to make that entry manifest. Okay, a decent green candle. All right, can't have a big topping wick candle and expect that price action to continue going higher. Okay, it may, but I'm just saying that wouldn't be my candle to enter in on. Okay, so pivot 631.75. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. First green erases red entry 633.55. Okay, decent green candle up there. Red erases green entry underneath 630.30. Okay, underneath that's a red erases green entry down there. Okay, now I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. I like them when they're breaking away from VWAP. I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. I like them when they're breaking down and away from VWAP. Okay, if we get a 10-minute downtrend and it happens to manifest like up here or even in here, I may not trade it because it's counter trend. Okay, doesn't mean I don't want to trade it. All right, it just means that I might be expecting a reversal to happen anytime soon. Sometimes the reversal never happens and it just melts away all day. Okay, but remember, my bigger trend is the 2-hour uptrend, the daily uptrend, the weekly uptrend, and the monthly uptrend. All right, so I have a lot of respect for all of those. Okay, a 10-minute downtrend would be trading counter trend. All right, now if we happen to get up here parabolic, all right, and we get a 10-minute downtrend that manifests up there, I'd be interested in trading that down. But okay, right here, where we're just slightly breaking over prior day's highs, I'm not really interested in it right here. Okay, so if I get an uptrend that happens to manifest, like maybe down here or in here, long before the green erases red entry. Okay, I don't know what's going to happen this morning. Long before the green erases red entry, I'd be interested in trading that. Okay, as it crosses the pivot or as it crosses or breaks the rubber band candle to the upside. All right, I'm just saying that I'm not against trading a 10-minute uptrend that happens to manifest right off the top of this base right here, okay, where the pivot is, or right down here after they tag the breakup candle low and start working their way back up. All right, just saying that I don't to play my trade my 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. It doesn't have to be a green erases red entry. Okay, it could manifest here, it could manifest down here or originate down here. All right, I'm just stating that I'm still bullish. I'm still looking at 655. All right, I'm going to have a lot of respect for the 2-hour uptrend, the weekly uptrend, and the monthly uptrend. Okay, will we get some downtrends, some 10-minute downtrends? Absolutely. We had one here. Okay, I didn't trade that one. All right, because I had a lot of respect for the 2-hour uptrend, the daily and the weekly. All right, I did trade the 10-minute uptrends after that ended. Okay, I like those. All right, I'm just not interested in trading the 10-minute downtrends, not all of them. If they happen to get parabolic, hyperbolic up here, I'd be interested in trading those back to VWAP, back to the pivot, that kind of a trade. So there's SPY game plan. All right, mark off the top, mark off the bottom. Whoever breaks, look for the one to break, come down to the pivot, look for a bounce, and hopefully we get a higher high, or we make a lower high. All right, or we make a double top. We'll see what happens. Okay, there's SPY on the 10-minute chart. Okay, so there's my game plan for this morning. Let's take a look at QQQ. QQQ's got a game plan as well. Okay, I'm going to fan this out just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go over the options because the options apply to both SPY and QQQ. All right, I like 1 DTE Friday options on the multiple of 5. All right, so if I'm getting a call, I'm going to want the 570 call. All right, or the 575 call. Okay, I like the 8 days till expiration Friday options on the multiple of 5. Again, same thing applies to SPY. I like 1 DTE, 1 DTE, Friday options on the multiple of 5. Why Friday? Why the multiple of 5? Because they've got more open interest. All right? I like 8 days till expiration, Friday options on the multiple of 5. Either one, QQQ or SPY. Also like $5 to $15 out of the money. All right? The reason I like them $5 to $15 out of the money, they offer less risk. You're not going to pay up for those. You want something in the money with high performance, all right? You're going to pay up for that, all right? You'll probably pay, you'll pay like 2-3 times as much, sometimes 10 times as much as something that's out of the money to be in the money, all right? But then again, you've got all of that you can lose if you don't have any disciplines. So for that reason, all right, some of you don't have discipline. I like them $5 to $15 out of the money. Okay, you want the best performing option. It's going to be the 0 DTE in the money option. Okay, that's the best performing one. That'll give you almost penny for penny performance. Okay, I'm not against trading 0 DTEs. Okay, I'm just saying if you got a beginning account, you can't afford to lose. All right, so for me, it makes sense to go with something that sacrifices a little bit of performance to gain, to put out a little less risk. All right, so that's what I like. All right, so there's QQQ. There's the game plan. All right, QQQ pivot 562.45. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Bullish green erases red entry over 563.40. Okay, that's a green erases red entry. A bearish red erases green entry underneath 561.05. Again, if a 10-minute, I like same thing. I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. Okay, if a 10-minute uptrend manifests down here, down here, down here, long before we get to the green erases red entry, I will be highly interested in trading it to the upside if it breaks a 10-minute bullish rubber band candle or breaks through the pivot. Okay, either one of those I will be highly interested in trading, or is bouncing off of a significant location. Okay, I will be highly interested in trading those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. Okay, there's QQQ and SPY. All right, QQQ on the daily chart. Okay, not quite as pretty as SPY. All right, and you can see, all right, we had got a higher high and a higher, higher high, higher. Why does that look different? Okay, inside day. There we go. All right, higher low, lower high, closing over the bullish trap, over the rising 17 EMA. Okay, so that's bullish and in an uptrend up there. Okay, it's up at the all-time highs. All right, you can see it's not far off the all-time high right there a couple days ago. Okay, QQQ, bullish and in an uptrend. See all the green dots? Uptrend. All right, SPY. All right, same deal. New all-time high. Drop the mic. Doesn't get any better than that. FNGU. All right, price action for FNGU. Lower high, lower low. Closing underneath a bearish cross. See the 3 crossing underneath the 8. Closing underneath a bearish cross, but over, see the green dots? The rising 17 EMA. Okay, see the tail right there? Okay, it's a good sign. All right, so FNGU, daily chart. Okay, closing over the rising 17. Again, look at price, hold the higher grounds. Trash that out. Grab this and that right there. See it move up and over to the right. Okay, that's bullish. That's strength. Holding up there for that extended time. Okay, 5-6 candles and they're not giving it up. That means they're probably going to be committed to this area. That's FNGU on the daily chart. Moving up, holding the higher ground. Again, same thing. Consolidation over prior consolidation. Okay? You can see we've got consolidation on top of consolidation. That's a bullish environment. All right, that's on top of consolidation. Okay, that is a bullish environment. Okay, yesterday wasn't pretty for FNGU, but it's still bullish because they're holding that higher ground up there. Okay, so that's still bullish. Okay, it's still in an uptrend. Okay, higher, got some lows. They made a higher low. They got some highs. They made a higher high up here. Okay, that's still bullish, still in an uptrend. Let's take a look at IWM. Okay, IWM, look at that, puts in a new rally high. Okay, closing up there in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Okay, still in an uptrend, bullish, a new rally high. Okay, this is the return rally. Okay, remember this was the high before? Well, this is the return rally back up to the all-time high back there. Okay, this is the bounce right there. IWM, bullish and still in an uptrend. Diamond Dow. Okay, new rally high. Look at the launch pad getting constructed, and now you're seeing the launch. All right, launch comes up, build the pad, and now look, you're getting the launch right there. Okay, Diamond Dow, daily chart. Moving up, holding the higher ground, built the launch pad. Now you're seeing a possible launch right here. So Diamond Dow, bullish and in an uptrend. New rally high, okay? Not to mention, they're probably a couple bucks within striking out the all-time high right here, okay? So within a couple dollars, there's Diamond Dow. Over the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. That's bullish and in an uptrend. All right, let's take a look at our technicals. T2122 right here. Okay, we spent the day, all right, the previous day we spent in the buy zone. Yesterday we spent in the overbought zone. Okay, that's bullish. Okay, see the failure to make a lower low. See the failure to make a significant lower low. We're coming back to test the highs. All right, so there's T2122, T2123. Okay, look at this. Bullish gap up, not filled by the bears. You know you're in a bullish environment. Who's in control? The bulls are, because the bears never filled the gap. All right, look at price, move up, okay, and hold the higher ground. Okay, so move up and hold the higher ground. That's bullish. Okay, you can see that as buying green from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Look, they didn't even take a lunch. All right, they just muscled through it all day long. T2123, new rally high, okay, for T2123. 15-minute uptrend. See the lows? All right, there's a higher low. Okay, see the highs? There's a higher high, new rally high, T2123, up over the rising 200 SMA. Let's take a look at 3-bar chart. Okay, here's 3-bar chart. This is the same product, okay? Again, on the 3-bar chart, we have to cut through some consolidation, okay? We got to deal with that high, and that low. We already got over this low right here. Once we cut through those, okay, all that's left is the all-time high. And I got to say, based on the trajectory, I think we're going to make a new all-time high. I think. We'll see what happens. All right, it's T2123. 3-bar chart, okay? Here's a low. There's a higher low. There's a high. There's a higher high. Guess what? That's in an uptrend. Okay, it's up over the rising or the hooking 200 SMA. Okay, that's bullish, up over prior all-time high right there, and another prior all-time high, off to attack the all-time high up here. Okay, right up here. Okay, right there. All right, on T2123. Let's take a look at FNGU. Not going to be as pretty as T2123. Okay, it's not as pretty, but let's face it, they were holding the higher ground. All right, let's take a look at those. All right, so here's price. Okay, price moved up and held the higher ground. Okay, notice we didn't break this base right here. Still holding the higher ground. Again, what do you got up here? Okay, you've got consolidation over prior consolidation. See the consolidation, and now we got some more consolidation, okay, right there. Okay, and then what do we got? More consolidation over prior consolidation. That's bullish. That is a bullish environment, okay? Now if we look at yesterday's price action, was not pretty at all. Let's zoom into it. Okay, you can see the day before, they were selling from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Yesterday's price action, they continued the downtrend selling, and they found themselves underneath 200 SMA. Okay, at the very end of the day, looks like about noon, all right, they called off the selling program and started the buying program by making a higher low and then producing a higher high. And then you can see this last minute candle right here ripping all the way back up over the 200 SMA right there. So nice return rally all the way back up to those highs. Looking for a continuation of FNGU 10-minute uptrend to the upside. So there's FNGU again. Okay, had a little pullback, but all in all, we still held the higher ground up here. Okay, we got underneath the 200 SMA. All right, that wasn't pretty, but we recovered well afternoon, all right, when they called off the selling program, all right, and started buying it all back up. There's FNGU, 15-minute chart. Hey, that's bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at a few other sectors. All right, first sector we're going to take a peek at, it's going to be XLE. Thank you, Alan, for posting that. XLE, this is our energy sector. Not a bad candle yesterday. But still in an uptrend, okay? If they take out this low, they'll be in a downtrend. They're still in an uptrend, okay? Because they're making higher lows and they're making higher highs. This one beat by a penny, okay? They're not in the lower third, okay? And they're not in the upper third, okay? If they were in the upper third, they'd be bullish up here, okay? If they were down here in the lower third, they'd be bearish. So they're just kind of in neutral land, all right? Right here in neutral land, just kind of moving back and forth in there, okay? Price action, okay, up over downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, closing up over the bearish trap, that's bullish. Closing up over the 17, that's bullish, okay? But still underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's neutral, okay? You can see how many times they've been up to the all-time high anchored VWAP, and they keep giving it up, all right? So that makes them neutral, all right? They go up, they give it up, that's neutral, all right? Anytime you see price go up, give it up, that's neutral, okay? It's when they go up and they hold that higher ground, that is the bullish environment. That's the one you want to look for. That's the one you want to see, the launch pad constructed, and look for the breakout to the upside, okay? You want to see that lightning bolt pattern, okay? XLE. Neutral, but still in an uptrend. All right, let's take a look at USO. Okay, USO is in an uptrend. If they take out this low right here, okay, they will negate the uptrend. That low right there. All right, currently, all right, you can see this was the Iraq skirmish. I'll call it a skirmish right there. All right, where they shut off the canal and the global supply of oil, all right, which spiked the price of oil, all right. So there was our higher high right there. All right, what we got right now, USO in an uptrend, okay, but let's face it, we're not, okay, in the upper third, okay, not in the upper third, but we're not in the lower third, all right. So we're just here in neutral land, all right. This is neutral land right through here, between the two. All right, so price action for yesterday, okay, you can see, all right, we got a lower high and a lower low, closing underneath a bearish trap underneath the 17. That's kind of bearish. All right, we're up over the all-time, the 3-year high anchored VWAP, okay, that's kind of bullish, all right. All right, we're in an uptrend, but the problem is we go up and we keep giving it up. See how many times we go up and we give it up? We go up, and guess what? We give it up again, okay? So oil right now, just not ready yet, but it is looking good. Okay, we got higher lows, we got higher highs, all right? Just need them to move up and hold the higher ground. They were close. They were up here for 3 days. Okay, up here in the upper 30% or upper third, but they just can't seem to hold it up there. Good news is they are consolidating finally on top of all-time high anchored VWAP. That is a bullish outlook, but they're still neutral at this time, okay, and in an uptrend. Okay, let's take a look at UNG. UNG in a downtrend. Okay, if you look at UNG, UNG's got a right shoulder right here, this double top, left shoulder right here, this double top. Then they've got the triple crown up here. This is the head right there, okay? All of this is the head. All right, and you can see the right shoulder. You can see the neckline right here. They came back, tested the neckline right through there. They failed to close candles up on top of the neckline, so they're coming back down, and now they're creating the right arm to extend down where the left arm left off, which is the all-time low right here. Okay, that is the all-time low. So we got a bearish head and shoulders program going on. You can see we're in a downtrend. Okay, you've got lower highs right here. See, lower highs. See how they keep dropping down? All right, lower highs, and you've got lower lows. See how they keep dropping down? Okay, so that's a downtrend. All right, and you got the head and shoulders pattern, the bearish head and shoulders. And you're down in quadrant 1, so that's bearish. Okay, and you're in a downtrend. Okay, so that's UNG. All right, let's take a look at GLD and SLV. So SLV, all right, new 13-year high right there for SLV. Okay, that's bullish. Closing over the trap over the 17, definitely in an uptrend, making a new 13-year high. GLD, okay, again, bullish, moving up. This is doing the stuff that you want to find. Okay, up and over to the right. Not just 5 days, but 3 months, holding the higher ground. That is incredibly bullish. That is a huge launch pad. Okay, so there's gold on the daily chart. Okay, that's bullish. Okay, notice the double top, they didn't give it up. Notice the triple top, they're not leaving the area. Notice the quad top, okay? They're not leaving the area, okay? This is bullish. All right, price moves up, holds that higher ground. Gold is bullish, silver is bullish. Both in uptrends. See the low, see the higher low, okay? See the higher lows, okay? See the highs, all right? All-time highs up here, okay? That's bullish, okay? And in an uptrend. Let's take a look at SMH. SMH up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish and in an uptrend right there, SMH. XLK, okay, that is bullish up here, top of quadrant 4, bullish and in an uptrend, XLK. XLF, okay, XLF on the verge of attacking the all-time highs up there, okay? This is the all-time high right here, on the verge of attacking the all-time high. XLF is making higher lows and higher highs, bullish and in an uptrend, all the way up here at the top of the quadrant of quadrant 4, top of quadrant 4, bullish and in an uptrend. XLF. Let's take a look at IYT. Up here in the upper third, okay, that makes us bullish in the upper third, okay, and you can see we got consolidation. All right, on top of prior consolidation right there, okay? Here's prior consolidation. That is a bullish environment. Notice they're up there. It's been 5 days. They're not leaving the area, okay? It's not the same as going up and giving it up anymore, okay? They're going up. They're holding the higher ground. That's bullish, all right? And we're in an uptrend, okay? We haven't made a lower low, all right, on the IYT. That's the transports. Bullish and in an uptrend. So look at the economic package, and we'll start off here with the dollar. You can see the dollar closed down here, 97.16, yeah, about 97.19 area. Okay, that was yesterday on the US dollar. US dollar is in a downtrend. And you can see obvious making lower highs and lower lows. All right, you can see you got a lower high there, a lower high, a lower high, a lower high. Okay, you got some lows, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low. Okay, lower low. Okay, now again, series of lower highs and lower lows. That's a downtrend. Okay, when they continue to make lower highs and lower lows, and they start from up here and they end up down here, that's a downtrend. Okay, this was the major support right through here. Okay, all of this, we're at a 3-year low right now. Okay, so this is major support, becomes minor resistance. They test it, they can't close candles up there. All right, so what happens? They come back down and test the lows, and the lows don't hold, so they make a lower low. All right, so there is minor resistance getting tested, and we failed to close candles up there. So there's a downtrend continues, all right, into a bear flag down here, as we are now under major support, which is now minor resistance, and both bear flagging over to the right. Okay, that's bearish and in a downtrend. All right, so we like that. Okay, it sucks for the consumer. All right, but for the investor, it means probably more revenue. All right, and higher earnings per share, which equals a better stock price. All right, so there it is. Okay, dollar in a downtrend. All right, let's take a look at Max Pain for today. Max Pain 631. Put to call ratio 1.38 puts for each call that expires today in the SPY. This is for SPY. 631 supposedly is Max Pain. Put to call ratio 1 and 1.3 puts for each call that expires today at 4:15. Economic calendar. Okay. We're on Thursday. Jobless claims come out at 8:30. I wouldn't expect those to be bad at all. PMI composite flash 9:45. New home sales at 10. Gas report at 10:30. Tomorrow durable goods 8:30. Rig count at 1. Okay. Main event was last night. Google had earnings. Okay, after the close, along with Tesla, along with T-Mobile, along with IBM. Okay, all of those. They reported earnings last night. You can see how big Alphabet is. You combine the two of them, you got $4.6 trillion. That's huge. All right, for Alphabet right there. All right, let's take a look at today. All right, what's happening for today? Okay, Honeywell. All right, which really should be tech. All right, is I guess they're going to count them as retail. 153 billion. They're going to report this morning. Total Energies, 138 billion. They're going to report this morning. Union Pacific, that's railways, 138 billion. They're going to report this morning. Blackstone, 125 billion. They're going to report this morning. And Intel going to report tonight, $102 billion. All right. Tomorrow we've got familiar names, but nothing that's going to move the markets. Okay. So let's see what happens after those Google earnings. All right, this will be the first hour of open market after today when the market opens. Because remember, Google reported last night after the close. All right, so that's it for me for this morning. All right, let me take a look at jobless claims. All right, the consensus range is 210,000 to 230,000. Okay, we came in at 217,000. Actually closer to the lower side of the range. So that was awesome. All right, 4-week moving average is 224,000. Okay, and we're below the average. So jobless claims came in, I would say, perfect. All right, you're going to need some unemployed people if you're going to expand your economy, okay? Otherwise, you won't have anybody to build it or get it done, okay? So having some unemployment is not a bad thing, okay? Otherwise, you have to go find people from other countries, all right, to get the work done, all right? So there you go. All right, that's it for me for this morning, okay? I will be back in about 30 minutes and we will open up the markets. Thank you, everybody.